Welcome to the Monster Hunter World board game, where players take on roles of skilled hunters tracking down ferocious monsters in an incredible and thrilling adventure. With beautifully crafted game pieces and miniatures, players will investigate and hunt deadly beasts and collect precious loots in their quest to become the ultimate monster hunter. In this video, we'll go through the Ancient Forest core set, going through the gameplay overview, our thoughts about the game and the 3 things we liked and disliked about it. This is going to be one of the many videos as we go through all the sets and expansions that add iconic monsters from the video game. Hi, my name is Nick and we are Tabletop Duo. So grab your favorite drink and let's start with the overview. The Monster Hunter World board game is a tabletop adaptation of a popular video game franchise by Capcom. Designed for 1 to 4 players, it challenges players to take on roles of skilled hunters who must track down and defeat ferocious monsters while collecting precious resources along the way in a campaign that ends once hunters defeat a 4-star monster, which are the ultimate praise in the board game. When you start the game, you pick up a quest. The first time you face a monster type, you have to pick a 1-star version of it, which is the Introduction Hunt quest. Quests have a time limit, so the harder the quest, the less time you will have to complete them. Time is dictated by the time cards, and you build a random deck with these cards. Then you go to the Investigation quest phase. In this phase, you read entries of the quest book, and they work like their counterpart in the video game. Your objective is to find the monster by exploring. The system works like those adventure books that give you 2 options, and depending on the one you choose, you may get potions, crafting materials, track tokens, or get closer to finding the monster. Choices spend time cards, so you have to balance how much time you want to spend on an investigation phase. Most of the choices are simple, and you kinda know if one will lead you to the monster or it's gonna be about collecting resources. Once you find the monster, the hunting phase starts, and that's the main deal of the board game. The game features a large double-sided game board that represents the expansive landscapes of Monster Hunter World. The game features a deep and immersive combat system where players must use their characters' abilities, equipment, and teamwork to take down powerful monsters they encounter. The monsters have huge miniature representations, and the fights work somewhat in a similar way to Dark Souls, the board game. For this core set, you are going to be getting the Great Jagras, the Tobikadachi, the Anjanath, the Hathalos, and the Azure Hathalos. The monster base has 4 arcs, which indicate the front, right, left, and back side of the monster. When the monster attacks, you flip one of the monster behavior cards and you perform their behavior. Monsters targets the closest or the furthest character, and you can see who the next attack will focus in the back of the cards. I find this an elegant choice to give you like some heads up of what's coming next. Monsters can attack and move, or move and attack, according to the behavior card. And they may attack a specific node or an arc around them, like a monster doing an attack that hits the right, left, and front arcs up to 2 nodes away. And each attack is related to a certain part of the monster, like head, tail, or body. This is important because, like in the game, hunters can break monster parts, and when some are broken, they will give negative status to the monster's attacks. The behavior also determines how many turns hunters will have to attack the monster before the monster attacks again, and it also determines the maximum number of cards that they can use to attack per turn. Each player has a unique character with its own equipment, which can be upgraded and customized over time. On their turn, you select the cards you want to use to create your attack combo. Each card shows how many damage cards you draw to do damage on the monster, and some of them have elemental damage and contributes towards breaking a monster's part, for example. Once you build the attack, you draw the corresponding number of damage cards and you apply the damage to the monster, subtracting its defense value depending on the part that you hit. Some parts have lower defense values. If you manage to do damage and have the break ability, you add the break tokens to the monster's part you attacked, and if you manage to add as many tokens as listed on the part, that part breaks and the monster usually gets a debuff or lose even more health. At the end of a hunter's turn, they flip a time card and they pass to the next player. Players must defeat the monster before the time deck ends. If a character is defeated during combat, they faint, and player characters can faint up to 2 times per combat. If you faint for a 3rd time, you lose the hunt and you have to restart it. When the monster is defeated, each broken part gives guaranteed loot, which is displayed in the back of the monster sheet. Then players roll 3 dice, and they may get the loot according to the monster table. The cool thing is that you may decide to combine dice to get a higher number loot or split to 3 to get 3 loot and so on. Loot is added to your character's sheet. Then players go to the HQ where they can upgrade their weapons and armor via the Forge board, visit the Meowscular Chef for buffs, scout for more basic materials and more. Then players can decide to fight a new monster or fight the same monster on a higher difficulty, which includes different resistance status, effects on broken parts and so on. Once you gather enough power to defeat a 4-star monster and you defeat it, you win the campaign. So that's it for the overview. I hope I could properly translate the mechanics because it's really exciting. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and if you have any questions about the game. With multiple quests to play through, each with its own unique challenges and monsters, the Monster Hunter World board game offers endless replayability and excitement. It's a perfect game for the fans of the video game franchise, as well as tabletop gamers who enjoy immersive and strategic gameplay. And I can't restate how fun it is the hunting phase in the game. Fighting the monster is exciting, and even replaying the combat is fun because the fight will play different every single time. This is achieved by the Dark Souls board game inspired boss fighting mechanics and the monster's behavior deck. For me, they took its strengths and improved on the weaknesses of the old system. Looting is also a highlight of the game. They give you a lot of ways to obtain crafting materials you need to forge weapons or armor by giving specific loot per monster part players break, and by allowing you to choose the loot by summing up the loot dice results or by leaving them separate. On top of that, you can also visit the resource center to get some core materials, further giving you ways to get the loot you want. The new weapons and gear you can craft make a difference and allow players to create specific builds for how they want to tackle the monsters. The equipment is themed after every monster, so you have the Jagras set and the weapon, the Anjanath set and the weapon, and so on. And like the monsters, some sets will give you immunity against certain elemental attacks, just like in the video game. There's a clear sense of progression as you upgrade, and the better weapons and gear really feel more powerful when you use them. Talking about progression, even though you have 5 enemies in the core set, they have different quest versions that range from 1 to 4 stars. Each version has their own passive ability, and breaking the monster parts have their own consequences. The map has slightly changes as well, adding rocks, lakes and bushes, and all of that together creates enough variety for replayability. Also, if you have the Wildspire Waste set, you can combine it with the Ancient Forest, further increasing the number of monsters that you can fight. The Ancient Forest even comes with the gear and weapon cards required if you want to play with the two sets together. In terms of card sleeves, you can use the size 63.5 by 88 for the standard cards. The sad part though is that the inserts were not made to fit the cards with sleeves. So if you use them, get ready to have a bloated box. Now let's dive into the 3 things we liked and disliked about the game. The first thing we liked is the combat. Instead of using dice, they created a deterministic way for players to engage in combat. It's really fun combining the cards to create combos and damage the monster, and I feel they really nailed that. You feel a strong sense of progression as you upgrade your weapons and armor and you fight the monsters, which is great, and each character has a variety of ways to build their characters to their playstyle. The second thing we liked is the loot system. Again, the key here is that players have a good level of agency over which loot to get by breaking parts, using any combination of dice, exploring for materials during their investigations, or by gathering core materials on the side activities. Obtaining loot is fun, and getting the right materials to craft what you want is really exciting. And the third thing that we liked is the replayability aspect of each monster hunt. The enemy behavior deck, paired with the time deck, the quest difficulty, and the random draw of combat cards and damage, makes each playthrough a unique experience even if you're fighting the same monster. Steamforged games nailed on that aspect. Now for the things we didn't like, the first one is the investigation phase. Each monster have a limited number of entries, and once you go through all of them a few times, it becomes really repetitive. There is nothing to do also, since it's just reading and picking between 2 choices. The second thing we didn't like is the player's dashboard. It's made with a thin cardboard, and every time you play, the board moves, making your cards move everywhere, so you have to keep rearranging your things. For me, this would be a minor thing, but it's really noticeable every time you play. And the third one is the fact that the inserts don't support sleeved cards. Because a lot of the cards like damage, attack, behavior and time are played, picked and reshuffled all the time, they could wear out fast, and if you want to sleeve them, they won't be fitting in the box. It's a minor thing, I know, but I think it was important to mention. So that's it for today's review. You will find the other Monster Hunter review and unboxing videos right here as soon as they are released. So thanks for watching and see you next time, Hunter. Bye!